The content of Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo, powered by 710 Radio, is intended for general information purposes only. It is not designed to provide listeners with specific and personal medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional services, or any advice. The programs are not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Individuals with health problems should always consult their healthcare provider for professional medical advice, medications, and/or treatments. Kingdom of Healing also does not promote anyone's individual practices, programs, agendas, particular treatments, healthcare programs, providers, hospitals, and/or medical centers. The views expressed by show host and their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Kingdom of Healing. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. We encourage you to always seek professional advice or care for any problems which you may have. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to the Kingdom of Healing or 710 Radio or the show hosts whose words and or opinions appear from or on this radio show.
Live on iHeartRadio, powered by 710 Radio. This is The Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo. So grab you a pen and a paper, kick your feet up, and get ready for some serious knowledge to be dropped on you. Because Kimberly Mateo is a nationally certified naturopath, master herbalist, iridologist, a nutritionist, and a holistic healer since 1977. She shares 35 plus years of knowledge and experience to listeners who are interested in learning and overcoming health challenges naturally. So without further delay, here is the host of your show, Kimberly Mateo.
Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today on Kingdom of Healing. This is Kimberly Mateo, and I'm a traditional naturopath. And today I want to talk about herbs that you can have on hand for childhood illnesses. We have, and I've talked about it before, we have a staggering rate of cancer in the United States. 50 children a day on the average are diagnosed, and 7 on the average are dying. And we've got to look at the things that we can take control of, because there's so much that we can't control. It's those choices that we teach them when they're little and they're home with food choices, that hopefully we lay a good enough foundation that when they get into elementary school and take us, by their school lunch. Of course, my granddaughter that I'm raising, she took her lunch to school every day. She's now being homeschooled. But last year, I packed her lunch every single morning because she would not eat the food that was at school. And we'd kind of go, we'd go over the little monthly chart that would come home and tell you what all the the lunches were, and I really just have to laugh, that this is being put together by a dietitian, and they're scary. They're scary. It's the dietitians that are feeding the people in the hospital, and they're really not feeding them real good quality food. When they still serve up margarine and white bread and coffee with Splenda with it, you're not doing what you should be doing to get people well. It's not a diet that builds health. And once the children get to school, there's a lot of peer pressure. And I know that some of the at least the elementaries in this state have removed a lot of the pop machines and candy machines that were in the schools for quite a while, and right. I think that they have been removed out of the middle schools. Now, the high schools are a completely different story. I mean, the high schools still have pop machines and candy machines and a variety of different snacks they're not healthy. I mean, just because it's in a vending machine doesn't mean that everything has to be bad.
Right.
There are healthy snacks that can be put in those vending machines. And as far as the pop machines go, load them up with more water. Load them up with juices. But children they're not going to make those choices if it's not something that's familiar to them at home.
Right.
And it is something that is really awesome for kids that do eat healthy to be able to go to school and see that there are things being offered that are healthy. When we moved back to Colorado in 2006, my grandchildren went to 3 different schools up in Broomfield, Colorado. And one thing that my granddaughter at the time that just turned 18, that was in 3rd grade at that time, she was so excited because she could get field greens for lunch, and she'd have a big old salad, and she had access to fruit. And, you know, her friends kind of gave her a hard time, but that was real normal for her. And she was real excited about it. She wasn't one that would eat kind of the mainstream foods. You know, Michael Moore, there's another guy Michael Moore has a movie coming out that's going to debut in the theaters on the 21st. You know, and one of the things was showing what American kids eat for lunch to other children in other countries. And they really were very appalled. They looked at those plates and were very happy that was not what was being served to them, because they certainly wouldn't eat it.
Uh-huh.
So we've got we are not progressing quick enough across the country with the school lunch program.
I've been I agree, and what I'm enjoying seeing is a lot more schools going to their own garden, you know, growing their own garden stuff.
And that's wonderful, because that teaches them how to grow their own food, and it's not difficult. And you know, it's certainly having a nice big garden is definitely for those who are young. Of course, I've known plenty of people over the years in Iowa, elderly, senior citizens that were well into their late 60s, 70s, 80s, that still had a huge, huge garden and worked that garden and grew their own food. Of course, they had to get out there very, very early in the morning, right up at about sun up, because by the time you got around to 11 o'clock in the morning or noon, it was warming up pretty good. And they couldn't tolerate, you know, being outside. But, you know, the other thing, too, is here we have this poor food supply. And the other thing that we have is not only going to school and our children that have been taught differently are confronted with this food that is a lot of food that's very foreign to them. And I understand that a lot of moms are real busy and a lot of moms work, and but we need to take the time to make sure that they do have their own lunch that's packed, because that's the only way you're going to assure that they're getting the nutrition. And you've got to keep their immune system strong. You've got to keep them built up. Laying that good foundation of good quality food is what builds strong bodies that are resistant to diseases. And I've mentioned it before on the show, is for those of you listening that are kind of standing on the fence, either you do vaccinate or you absolutely do not, or you're standing on the fence and you don't really know which way to jump on that issue. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, just Google her name. It'll bring up her website. You can go to YouTube, Google her name, Sherry Tenpenny. Very outspoken about vaccinations. Dr. Russell Blaylock, he's another one. He has a website. He also has a lot of things on YouTube. And there's more and more doctors that are coming forward and are speaking out, because when you receive the vaccinations over a period of time, up to a month, that child is still shedding and is able to, that virus that was exposed in their body. And they can contaminate other children. But like my youngest one and my grandchildren, they've been exposed to a lot of things. And like when they had chickenpox, a very, very mild case. Very mild case. No scars, nothing like that. And sure, they were down for a little while, but they just didn't get the huge breakout. And there's not, they've never had any problems since then. So childhood diseases are things that children are going to come in contact with. And we have this huge kingdom of herbs, and to run all the time to the doctor, not only with the vaccines. I just had a conversation with a lady who called me from Omaha that had heard about me, and she had some questions about her son, and he's now 19 years old. And she would not let him have his third set of shots, because his first set of shots, he got really, really sick. And by the time he got his second set of shots, he started having a lot of noticeable health problems. And then by the time she got around to the third set of shots being due, she would not allow them to be done. And her son is 19 years old, and he's autistic. And he'll live at home with his mom his whole life.
Wow.
And, there'll be a problem when he outlives her. Who's going to take care of him then? So it's really sad. It's very, very sad. And it's one of those things that's kind of like political views right now.
Right.
Well, not right now, always. But we kind of have that intensity on the vaccine subject as well. So the best thing that I can advise to you is to do the research on your own and listen to those and come to your own conclusion about it. We have a vast kingdom of herbs that are loaded with protein and vitamins and minerals, and where those herbs grow in their natural habitat, they're able to search out specific nutrients that grow because of, that they bring up through the roots for their food to grow. And when you have herbs that grow in specific areas, they're very high in specific nutrients that are good for different organs, help with different kinds of ailments and stuff to help you to overcome them. If you're taking your child all the time in for antibiotics and sulfa drugs, they're nutrient robbers in the body. So antibiotics destroy not only the bad bacteria, but it destroys the good bacteria. So one thing that's very, very good for children to be on is, for children they can have up to 5 1/4 of the dosage of an adult. 5 to 10, half the dosage. About 11 to 15, 3/4 of the dosage that an adult would have.
Okay.
The thing is that the antibiotics destroy the good bacteria. The antibiotics also inhibit B complex. It robs the B complex out of the body, especially the B12. Sulfa drugs rob the fat-soluble vitamins and vitamin K. You know, your A, fat soluble, or your A, your D, your E, robs that from the body and inhibits the absorption of those specific nutrients that are needed. Essential fatty acids, it interferes with the essential fatty acids as well. So there are many different elements and things that you can use from a natural standpoint. One thing that I like, and I have the kids on always, is the elderberries. And it's the children's chewable, the superheroes elderberries. Elderberries inhibit the attachment of a virus on the cell. Echinacea. Now, echinacea is an antiviral. So if you suspect that your child's dealing with a virus, then you use echinacea through that duration until you get them well. Echinacea is not something that you keep taking every single day. You use it as you need it. Same with golden seal. Golden seal works with bacterial infections, and it works very, very well. But golden seal is also another herb that you use during the duration of the illness, and then when they're well, you stop using that. It's not something to be taken every day like a multivitamin. In the children's line, you know, there is a multivitamin, a mineral. There's the elderberry. There is a essential fatty acid with there's the calcium with vitamin D. So there are things. B vitamins. They're water soluble. They're really good for kids who we seem to have so much ADD, ADHD, and teachers want kids pretty much sitting in their seats like little robots and not really fidgeting around. And, you know, if you look at what they had for breakfast and then, sheesh, after lunch, you see what they've consumed. It's pretty difficult to sit in your seat, and it's pretty difficult to stay focused. So B-complex helps that nervous system to cope with tension and stress. The other thing is we have a product called Focus Attention for your children that you suspect have a problem with staying focused and on track and are kind of all over the place. Lots of OCD with obsessive compulsive disorder with children. We just see a lot of things that we did not see 30 years ago. And certainly when I was growing up, very, very rarely did you know a kid in the neighborhood who was, you know, a little on the crazy side, you know, which was the ADD, ADHD. Very, very important that there's a good baseline of nutrition, a good multivitamin that can be taken. The Super ORAC is a mega antioxidant, the Super ORAC. And small children, again, you know, under 5, they can take one of those capsules a day, and it's good to take that one capsule in the evening before bed with one of the probiotic 11 and get that good bacteria cultured in the intestinal tract. Never give children mineral oil. Mineral oil is something that coats the intestinal tract. It inhibits enzymes being released into the stomach and the small intestine, and it inhibits the functioning of the large intestine as well. So Epsom salts is something that 2 cups of Epsom salt to a bath as warm or hot as they can tolerate that, and have them soak in that. Epsom salts is a good way to relax them. It's also a really good way to have the body sweating and to releasing those toxins through the skin, and the Epsom salts helps to pull that out and is a wonderful detoxifier. So I want to go through a lot of herbs that can be used. One thing too, kids that complain about their stomach bothering them, or they have real loose stools and they're given Melanta or they're given Pepto-Bismol. Those are also a couple of products that rob the essential fatty acids out of the body, as well as A, D, and E, and the B complex, as well as vitamin K. So they're not things that you want to give. They're not things that anybody should take because there are alternatives. I've talked a lot before about alfalfa, and it's called Father of All. It has the roots of the alfalfa plant grows deeper than any herb in the herb kingdom, so it chelates and searches out all of the different minerals and trace minerals, and it's a way to pH balance the body as well internally. And I've talked about that with pH balancing. You get that terrain into balance, and viruses, bacteria, prions, they have no place on healthy tissue when that pH is in balance. So that is really, really key. If you go to the Facebook page, Kingdom of Healing, there's a link there on the alkaline water machine where you can click on that and go in and read about it. I think it's very reasonably priced at $8.95. So back to alfalfa. It also contains natural occurring fluorine, which is natural fluoride. Okay, so it's not the chemical fluoride, it's the natural occurring fluorine, which also occurs in black walnut.
Okay.
But fluorine helps to strengthen the teeth and prevent bone decay. It's also very, very good with women who are breastfeeding to help with breast milk production. Whole leaf aloe vera, it doesn't take too much with a child. 1 ounce is equivalent to 10 ounces of a regular aloe vera juice. So children, you're looking at only giving them like a half of a teaspoon of the whole leaf aloe vera.
Wow.
Okay, for healing. You can add that bad sunburns and cuts and stuff. You can add 1 ounce of the whole leaf aloe vera, reconstitute that with about 6 ounces of water, put it in a spray bottle, and spray the area where the sunburn is at, or whatever sore is there. Bee pollen is wonderful. Bee pollen helps build the immune system so that it helps to strengthen the immune system to the point where you don't have to worry about allergies. So it's really very good to, if you're able to, is to get your bee pollen locally. Okay, because the bees then are gathering the pollen from local plants, and that helps to build immunity as well. So there is a lot of things I want to go through here, and an hour goes by really, really fast. Really fast. So we have a lot of extracts and the liquid herbs. And a lot of the liquid herbs here I'll be talking about because they're just so easy with the children. 2 or 3 drops with a baby in the mouth. A toddler, you're looking at maybe 5 or 6 drops. 5 to 10, you're going to give them maybe a quarter to a half a teaspoon of that, the extract that's in a vegetable glycerin. Most of them are in vegetable glycerin. But they come into teenage years, dealing with acne. The best thing to do is red clover because it helps to cleanse the blood of toxins. Garlic, of course, teenagers don't want to walk around smelling like garlic, but I'm going to tell you something. It's nature's antibiotic, and it's one way to clean up the bloodstream. The has amazing healing properties, and it helps to promote the body to burn a fever if you've got toxins and you need to get rid of them. Fever really is not a bad thing, because fever is your immune system working. It's burning up a virus or a bacteria that you've been exposed to. That's what that fever comes from. So it's good to work with that fever. Now, certainly there's high fevers where it can become dangerous, but for the most part, hold off don't go running for the Advil or the Tylenol. Tylenol, and I've talked about this before on my shows. My niece is a transplant nurse, and it's like she said, the majority of all of the liver transplants in children that they do is from Tylenol. The hospital where she is a transplant nurse, that hospital, they have no Tylenol. There's no medication whatsoever in that hospital that administers anything with Tylenol in it to any of their patients.
Wow.
Whether they be, in the PICU, in the newborn nursery, ICU, all the way to geriatrics. I mean, they don't use Tylenol. And Advil, ibuprofen, is used with great caution as well, because I've talked about it before on shows where ibuprofen has the ability to perforate microscopic holes in the intestinal tract, and that's what leads to that leaky gut syndrome, which can be very dangerous, as throughout your years you constantly have seepage from the large intestine that's making its way into the abdominal cavity.
Wow.
So that right there is a breeding ground for disease. Another thing with, bad skin breakouts, certainly number one is get them off the pop and chips and candy and fried foods. And one thing that you'll notice if you do go through you show up at the fast food restaurants and stuff, what does the skin look like of most of the workers? Their skin is very broken out. And that has to do a lot with, the hydrogenated oils that are used and literally in the air. Okay, so aloe vera is something that can be used. Oregon grape. It's been used for forever for skin ailments, Oregon grape. Tea tree oil, but that has to be really highly diluted. Tea tree oil, don't put that on the skin full strength.
Okay.
That needs to be diluted. Very, very good to apply where there is like cyst type breakouts with the skin. Psyllium hulls is very good to add to the diet. That's actually fiber. And by adding fiber into the diet and having enough water to be hydrated creates a lot of frequent bowel movements that help to move those toxins out of the bowel and out of the body. So I've mentioned it before, you need to eliminate at least once in 12 hours. You actually should eliminate within a half an hour after every meal.
Wow.
If you don't, you're constipated. Stop and think about where are those meals at. That's where it goes back to the when people die and they take the organs out and they weigh everything in an autopsy. An adult can carry up to 40 extra pounds, and that's what is in their large intestine. Children can carry 5 to 20 pounds in their intestinal tract.
Wow.
So they're not eliminating. So in an internal, and that's the other thing, is always remember your internal body temperature, 98.6. Stop and think about summertime, your back deck, 98 degrees outside. You don't want things sitting around too long.
Right.
Food starts to break down. So stop and think about that when it's in an internal body of 98.6 degrees, and then it's sluggish and it's not eliminating, and maybe that meal is hanging around inside your body for a couple of days. there's over 80 toxins from the breakdown waste of food. So you don't want that sitting around in your large intestine to be reabsorbed into your bloodstream. The other thing that's excellent for any kind of skin conditions and acne is the silver gel. Baking soda and water, using that to clean the skin gently. And then rinse real well, and apply some of the silver gel to that. Apple cider vinegar is also a natural antibiotic, antiviral, and it balances the pH of the skin.
Interesting.
So just good old apple cider vinegar is a good thing to use as an astringent for the skin. Allergies, like I said, bee pollen, it's been used successfully as a gradual method of building immunity. And then a small amount of it can be used initially, adding a little more at a time while watching for any type of allergic reactions. There's been a lot of people who have been treated successfully just using bee pollen to overcome allergies. It's really sad. They go in and they get all these tests and little toxins put underneath the skin, and then they mark them as they swell up, welt up, and become red, and your child is pretty miserable for 2 to 3 days. Some of them, up to a week after that. So there are other things that you can use. Get some bee pollen in their diet. Start slow. Giving them 1/4 teaspoon in some applesauce. Working them up to a teaspoon of that twice a day. It's loaded with, it's a wonderful protein. So it has all of the essential amino acids as well as the non-essential amino acids. Burdock, again, it purifies the blood, cleans the toxins out of the body. Echinacea, natural immune builder. It's an antiviral. But again, you use it only as needed. Garlic. My suggestion is to start cooking with a lot of garlic and a lot of onions, because that alone right there helps keep the immune system strong. Those are natural occurring sulfur foods, and those sulfur foods are antibacterial in the body. So more garlic, more onions. Licorice root. It helps to strengthen and soothe the mucous membranes. And it's very much an anti-inflammatory, and it also helps to prevent allergic reactions. Dandelion is a wonderful herb that helps with the liver by keeping the liver clean and detoxifying the liver, because the liver does over 500 functions.
Wow. 500.
It does over 500. So you want to keep the liver functioning as well as you can. Milk thistle, it's a perfect antioxidant for the liver tissue. Anemia, alfalfa, again. Alfalfa is one of those things where its center atom is magnesium. Our center atom to our blood is iron. But it has all the components there to help to build a good, strong, healthy blood supply. Red raspberry is good for children with anemia, especially if you have children that are more on a vegan diet and you choose to not feed them much animal protein, or maybe they don't get any animal protein at all. So red raspberry is very good for it's rich in natural occurring iron as well as other essential vitamins and minerals. You can give it in a tea form because it's pleasant tasting. Add a little honey to it. I've talked before about the left rotary spin sugars and the right rotary spin sugars. Left rotary spin sugars are honey and molasses and non-GMO organic pure cane syrup. Those do not have an effect of feeding debris in the body. They don't feed bacteria and viruses. They feed, that's food for the cell. But now if you do a right spin sugar in foods that you're trying to get down the children, that's a different story. That's white sugar, and white sugar is made from beets, and all of the beets with the white sugar is pretty much, it's all genetically modified. So you don't want white table sugar. You don't want cheap imitation brown sugar. So you want, molasses is a left spin sugar. So that's good and healthy for the cell. You want to have on hand as well for anemia slippery elm. Slippery elm is one of those things where it's real soothing to the mucous membranes, and it's loaded with minerals and trace minerals. And it literally, slippery elm will sustain life. It aids in the digestion and absorption of nutrients, and it's just mega rich in vital nutrition. And it doesn't taste bad. A little bit goes a long ways. You can mix that up into yogurt, organic, non-GMO applesauce, and get it down. Yellow dock, that's another one. Rich in natural occurring organic iron, and it's easily assimilated into the bloodstream. Dandelion helps the liver to absorb iron. Now, appendicitis. One thing with an appendicitis is you want to make sure that bowel is open and they're eliminating. You don't want them constipated. The psyllium works real well. Just making sure there's enough fiber in their diet. Children don't get enough fiber if they're not eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. If they're eating a lot of cooked foods and prepackaged foods, salty foods, things like that, they're just not hydrated enough. So, slippery elm, again, in the instance that you're suspecting an appendicitis. Get that bowel open, get some slippery elm down them. Cascara sagrada, in this case, can be used, and again, that's definitely when you're going to want to make sure that you're using the rule of thumb of infants and toddlers getting 1/4 and a half of the dose of an adult for children 5 to 10, and then 11 to 15, 3/4 of the dose of an adult, because cascara is very powerful stuff with cleaning and eliminating toxins from the bowel. So it takes care of it takes care of constipation, no problem at all. It's also good to use if they've had a recent surgery, or if there's a lot of inflammation in the digestive tract, to just get that cleared and cleaned out. Another thing to use and have on hand, if they're, in that reflex spot is about a finger below the belly button, and then a couple of finger width to the right of the belly button. And if they're holding that area or complaining, that's kind of the reflex pain area for the appendix. Lobelia. Now, lobelia needs to be used with caution. Lobelia is the king of the nervines, and it's a wonderful relaxant, and it's wonderful for seizures. It's amazing for seizures to stop them. But lobelia can also be toxic. So it's one of those things that you use a very little bit goes a long way. So when you're dealing with the extracts, you're really only needing a couple of drops to a 1/4 teaspoon, depending upon their age, but just a few drops for an infant or a toddler.
Okay.
Most infants are not going to, have an appendicitis, but toddlers can.
Really?
Sure. It's not real common, but it does happen.
Very interesting. Okay.
Asthma. One thing I've found over the years with children with asthma, and I kind of decided, really about 20 years ago, is that it appeared that a lot of the kids with asthma, you show me a child with asthma, and a lot of times, I think 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of turmoil that's going on in that house behind those closed doors. And children have a hard time of expressing themselves. They're always told to go to their room, or they don't need to be heard from because they're not an adult. In situations where they feel really intimidated and stifled, it can affect their breathing. So asthma is one of those things where we have a wonderful product called ALJ. Works fantastic. ALJ and lobelia. That lobelia will dilate those bronchioles and get you breathing and oxygenating almost instantaneously.
Wow.
So it's good to have it on hand. It does. It's hot. It doesn't taste real well. It tastes terrible. But hey, when you're in a situation like that, it doesn't really matter because you need to breathe.
Right.
You have to breathe. And
are you taking that?
I just put it right in the mouth.
Straight drops to the mouth.
Yeah, right in the mouth. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Under the tongue, so that it's absorbed quickly into the bloodstream. The other thing is fenugreek. It works as an expectorant in removing the mucus and helping to fight infection. Garlic, again, natural antibiotic. It helps prevent the formation of antibodies. It helps prevent the formation of antibodies in the immune system. It also helps with lung congestion. So we want to watch, dairy products and wheat products, fried foods, packaged foods. They're pretty high on the mucus-causing foods. And sometimes if there's too much mucus in the body and not enough fluids to hydrate, that mucus gets real hard. It's real sticky. It's like that a dry horse cough. You're not hydrated enough. If you had enough hydration, that would be liquefying. It would be moving that mucus in the body. So dry hacking coughs are a good sign that you need to push more fluids.
Very interesting. Okay.
Okay. Lobelia, again, it clears obstructions from the body, gathers poisons and removes them from the body and clears obstructions. Marshmallow, and I don't mean marshmallows made from sugar and egg whites. Marshmallow is the herb, and it's very soothing to the bronchial tubes. So if you're doing a lot of coughing and hacking and the bronchioles get very irritated, slippery elm and marshmallow are two things that are very soothing for that.
Okay.
Mullein is used, it acts as a bronchial decongestant, and it's known to help in the prevention as well as lessening the severity of asthma attacks. It's also an antispasmodic, so it's very good to have somebody who has a history of asthma to give them as a preventative. Now, mullein they can take as a preventative daily, and I would just give a half of a capsule twice a day if you have a school-age child, an elementary child that deals with asthma. So a half a capsule twice a day. So a bottle of 100 is going to last you 100 days. It's quite a bit.
Right.
And everything that I talk about you can find on kingdomofhealing.com. You can go into that search bar area and just, type the name of it in, and it'll come up on that. Slippery elm, again, it's healing on the mucous membranes of the body. And thyme. We've got a product called fenugreek and thyme. So you've got the fenugreek that works as an expectorant, and then you have thyme that contains antispasmodic properties and antibacterial properties. And that helps to heal and prevent asthma spasms. You can steam the thyme as well. just put that in a vaporizer, or if you have a diffuser, some essential oils. If you got a diffuser, and put a few drops of an essential oil in there and diffuse that into the air. Okay. Athlete's feet, silver gel. It just, kids get it too. If you've got a little one that's had too many runs on antibiotics, gets all that good bacteria out of balance in the gut. Athlete's feet is an outward sign of candida. It's an outward sign of what's going on inside of the body. So you don't just take care of the feet, the outward signs. You've got to do corrective therapy from a standpoint of food, which is lean meat and a lot of vegetables, and using you've got to stay away from fried foods and wheat products and nightshade family vegetables, mushrooms, tomatoes, potatoes, along that line. Remove those from the diet. Certainly no sugar, because that sugar feeds that candida. Stress feeds the candida as well. And the thing is that they can become much more stressful just from the imbalance that's going on in the digestive tract, that they're fidgety and a lot of times craving foods that they shouldn't be eating at all. The other thing that works with that is Podiarco. You can make the tea. We have the extract. You can give them a little bit of the Podiarco extract. You can give them the probiotic 11 at bedtime. And there's the nano silver as well, the silver sol, that half a teaspoon twice a day to kill off the secondary bacteria and stuff that can occur in the body just from the die-off from the candida as you get the body back in balance. And, you get eating right and feeding them right and giving them everything that they need, and, you can get start having that die off, and as soon as you're catching them, trying to find cookies or getting into sugar or eating something they shouldn't be, sometimes the body starts craving what it needs to build that fungus back up in the body. Myrrh essential oil is excellent. You can add that with coconut oil. 20 drops of that into about 9 tablespoons of coconut oil, and mix that up and rub that on their feet. Talked about that with a lot of the essential oil shows. And the pores on the bottom of the feet are the largest pores in your body. So it's pulled up through the system. And a lot of times you can taste that in the mouth within 2 to 3 minutes. It's in the bloodstream within 2 to 3 minutes. Another thing that I like and used a lot throughout the years with fevers and any kind of illness with the kids is olive oil and garlic. And you just heat a little olive oil up in a stainless steel pan and put your chopped up garlic into that, and just heat that until that garlic starts to look a little transparent. Scoop that garlic out of it, let it cool down, rub their feet and their ankles with it, rub their legs with it, put clean white socks on, and you can smell the garlic on their breath within 2 to 3 minutes.
Wow.
And that's how it's just being pulled up through the system. And garlic's amazing. Don't underestimate it. And if you don't have the money for supplements, you can afford to have garlic on hand. And it's one of those things where it's nature's antibiotic. You don't build up a resistance to it. If you're going all the time for specific antibiotics, then pretty soon the doctors start changing them around because you build up a resistance to it. One thing that is a nice trend that we're seeing now, doctors are a little more hesitant of putting children on antibiotics.
That's good, because
It's
there was
very
a time
good.
when
They
it seemed
did
like
for
any time you
everything.
would go in there, they were prescribing a different antibiotic like it was candy.
Yeah, so you get someone by the time they're 6, 7 years old, and they've built such a resistance to all the different antibiotic families that you've got them on some pretty big gun stuff. I mean, if your child gets a prescription of Bactrim, you know that your child has had way too many antibiotics, because that is a big gun antibiotic. And this is why some of these strains of viruses and bacteria have become so resistant, like MRSA. And MRSA is everywhere. It's on our skin. You go into public places. It's on, doorknobs and doors. And just be careful what you touch. Because of it. And it's very, very difficult to get that under control. And it can go inward and create a lot of problems. Children with bad breath. Sometimes you got those little ones that'll come up to give you a kiss and you about fall over. Major halitosis. Number one, that bad breath can be a reflection of poor elimination in the large intestine.
Wow.
Again, it's that 98.6 body temperature. Again, it's things, kind of doing a slow bake. And that breakdown of the toxins. It's all part of the digestive tract. And that comes back up and manifests itself as some pretty severe breath. Chlorophyll works really well. Again, neutralizes that pH, helps to kill off that bacteria that could be brewing and building up. The other thing is it has a little peppermint in it, and that peppermint makes the breath smell better. But you want to take care of the problem. Research what the problem is. Make sure that they brush their teeth, and they brush their teeth well, so that there's not bacteria and stuff building up in their mouth. And that's what you're smelling, is the bacteria. Children, too, that have a real fast metabolism usually have a kind of a sulfur smell to their breath. And that's that fast metabolism. That's that burning up of that metabolic waste, kind of the inferno smell, the sulfur smell. The other thing, good bowel cleansing. We've got the LB extract that works excellent for cleaning out the bowel. Bedwetting problems, uva ursi. That is a wonderful herb to use for strengthening and healing the whole urinary tract. Plantain, that's in a single, uva ursi and plantain are also in single herbs. And plantain helps to strengthen the kidneys and the bladder. Another thing I've found with children with bedwetting, sometimes it's a dairy allergy.
Very interesting.
So try taking your child off of dairy products, especially milk. We're the only country that after a child is weaned, we consume so much dairy. That's not the norm in other countries. And certainly it's not the norm as far as cow's milk goes. Goat milk is superior. There are properties in goat's milk that scientists have linked to properties that can build the immune system. And I was recently reading something with a scientist in Europe who discovered, it was something that he used with his AIDS patients because of the properties in the goat milk.
Wow.
Behavioral problems. I wanted to, watermelon. Watermelon is wonderful for the bladder and the kidneys. Chewing up those little black seeds. Those black seeds, you make a tea out of it. watermelon seed tea flushes and cleans out the kidneys and bladder.
Really?
Asparagus, the water from steaming asparagus,
I'm sorry.
very cleansing and
So then,
healing to
My
the
grandma was wrong
urinary
when she...
tract.
I apologize.
What now?
I didn't mean to interrupt. So my grandma was wrong when she told me, don't swallow those watermelons.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You get a watermelon growing.
Yeah. Well, they'll sprout and grow inside you. Well, hey, some of the conditions of bowels, things that are going on there. No, I've never heard of a watermelon growing in anyone's
That
intestinal
traumatized
tract.
me. Man, every time I would eat a watermelon,
Spit 'em
after
out.
that, boy, I was so afraid to
Spitting them
spit
out. Yeah, so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's, and it's hard to find watermelon with the seeds. These seedless watermelons, they're hybrids. You want those, you want the heirloom seeds with your watermelon. You want watermelon with seeds.
Now,
That's the way they were created and intended to be. They're hybrid.
It is hybrid different than GMO?
Yes. Hybrid is just, they're the blending of some different strains of them. GMO is they've got the splicing, but they're not within the same watermelon to watermelon. It could be GMO could be watermelon to frog. For
so
real,
GMO
watermelon
is more,
to fish.
DNA hybrid is more of like mating.
Yes. And GMO, there's all kinds of research now coming out with, and I've talked about that before as well on some of the back shows on the GMOs and just the animals that are fed these diets with all these grains that are high GMO and the tumors and stuff that they're getting lots of tumors and they're dying pretty quickly on the GMOs. And there has been, there is research going on, and it was out of the Netherlands last year that they said it does damage the DNA of humans. It does change it. So, why do we have so many catastrophic illnesses with children? These were things that I came from a big family. And heck, when we were growing up, everybody had 6 and 8 and 10 and 12 kids. It was the norm in my neighborhood, Italian Catholic neighborhoods, There was lots of Irish there and Hispanic and big families. And big families, to help with the farming. But, I wasn't raised on a farm, but I come from a huge family, and I knew a lot of kids that they all had, I remember I went to school with one family that they had 14 children. We just didn't hear about kids just were not sick. These catastrophic things that are so close to home these days, these were just unheard of 50 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. It was just unheard of.
Wow. And
it is our food supply. And the GMO, especially the last 15 years. I mean, we started a lot of the crop dusting in the 50s, the late 50s. But started with the potatoes and onions. But everything, everything is sprayed with some type of a herbicide, fungicide, insecticide. I call it the chemical enema, and it's what they give the ground when they plant all those plant the seeds to grow the food and give them synthetic hormones to make them grow faster, and we see a lot of that, and just kind of looking around with some of these teenagers. Wow, young boys with full beards and girls that are 14 that look 22.
Right.
It's like, let's talk some synthetic hormones here. And the problems that's going to develop with that is being estrogen dominant. And we have a extremely high rate of breast cancer and ovarian cancer, uterine cancer. But we also have a high rate of prostate cancer. And women are not the only one that end up with breast cancer. Men develop breast cancer. So we look at all of these synthetic hormones that are sprayed on the food supply to get them to manipulate it to grow faster, to get a higher yield. Okay, so we really need to have things back in its natural state. Crop rotations. We were taught crop rotation. They don't do a lot of crop rotation nowadays. They have everything to manipulate the soil so that it's going to grow. So there's plenty of information out there on GMOs, and it really is. I can't express enough how important it is that you take control of what you have control over. Behavioral problems, I had mentioned that focus attention. They have it in a powder, and there's a little scoop in there. Works wonderful. Add it to some grape juice. Add it to, pineapple juice along that line. Mix it in applesauce. Put it in yogurt. Has a grape flavor to it. The other thing is with behavioral problems, chamomile. Chamomile tea. Chamomile is very relaxing, and it doesn't have a bad taste to it. That's also something where you can take half a capsule or a capsule and open and empty and mix that with a couple tablespoons of applesauce. Ginkgo gotokola. Ginkgo is extremely important antioxidant for taking care of free radical damage to the brain tissue. So it's very much an antioxidant and protects brain tissue. And Ginkgo gotokola, or Ginkgo biloba, has the ability to cross that blood-brain barrier to protect brain tissue. Gotokola, I've talked about it before as well. It's a wonderful herb for feeding and strengthening the brain, and it's also what elephants make a couple journeys for a year. And I talked about before about how they can walk up the mountain, but when they come back down, they have to sit down, turn around, and scoot down the mountain. And they make a few journeys a year for the gotokola. Passion flower is very relaxing. You can get that in a single herb. It's also you can get it in a homeopathic. Highlands Homeopathic is a great line of products. Been around forever. They have the Passiflora, which is passion flower, and you can get it in a liquid, or you can get it in the tiny little sugar pills. Oh. And they're kind of chalky. And they have the Passiflora on that, which is passion flower, and very relaxing. And here we're already out of time, and we're just next one is bites and stings. So we'll continue that next week. But like I said, everything that I've talked about you can find on kingdomofhealing.com. And when you go through and you place an order, just be sure to check that box to be a member. Yes. Just like Costco and stuff, you don't, a $40 order, you don't have to pay for a membership. And then what you do is you're able to get that at direct wholesale. And one thing that's nice is the company does at least once a month where there's 3 or 4 days of free shipping. You can set it up with an auto ship at direct wholesale and get free shipping, or take advantage of you'll get a call when they decide to have that 3 or 4 days of the free shipping and take advantage of that.
Yeah, because I think right now they got a $3 shipping deal going on.
$3 shipping is very
so.
good because back when we had those diesel prices were just so high, like in 2009 and 2010, where it was like almost $5
Right.
a gallon for diesel. UPS went through a big change with the pricing for shipping. And hey, you know what? I love the convenience, and I have for 35 plus years, being able to just pick up the phone, put that order in before noon, Mountain Standard Time, tell them what I need, pay wholesale for it, and hey, if that's on a Monday, I have it UPS Wednesday. I don't have to go run around town, waste time, checking to see if they've got it. And, some of these prices on products in the health food store, I mean, they're pretty staggering. I won't even pay them. I'll pay it for the food. I won't pay it for the supplements. Not when I have access to a company that does over 600 physical tests on a 50-gallon barrel drum of an herb that comes in and has a $300 million lab. Nobody has a $300 million lab. They do. I guarantee you, there's no other herb or vitamin manufacturer in the world that has a $300 million lab. So I'd rather, takes a couple days and, hey, it's on your doorstep.
Right.
So take care, and next week we'll continue with some more herbs to the rescue for childhood ailments, and we'll get into some of those chicken pox and measles and what to do with that. So take care. God bless. Talk to you next week.